Welcome to Hangtown, located just outside Sacramento, California, for round 2 of the AMA 125 National Motocross Series. Hello everyone, I'm Jan Beekes, along with former motocross star Damon Bradshaw. And we saw in the first round in Gainesville that Honda's Steve Lamson dominated the first moto. Then in moto number 2, he had a mechanical problem, breaking spokes in the front wheel. But Damon, just last week, he got injured at a Dallas Supercross practice. What's that going to do for Lamson now that he can't run this race?
Well, it's going to hurt him for the championship, you know, to be in there at contention at the end. Jeff Emming was able to DNF in '92 and still come back and win. But as far as missing 2 complete motos and missing basically on points at Gainesville, his chances are pretty much out. But I think he can still come back and put in some good finishes for himself and also for Honda.
We had an opportunity to ask some of the other riders about their chances now that Lamson is out.
Yeah, I think it's a big advantage for me because and for everybody, because Steve Lamson was very fast at the first race, and he got bad luck at the second moto in Gainesville, and for everybody it's a good news, but not for him. But you know, injury it's not good for everybody, so I hope he will be back soon.
It's gonna give us all a little bit of a points lead over Lammy, but there's still 10 more races to go after this one, and it's a long series, but every point's gonna count.
You know, Lammy's tough, but there's other guys too you have to worry about. You know, it's not just Lamson that's, you know, the one that I have to worry about. There's other guys out there, and who I have to worry about the most is myself and just ride my own race out there.
With or without Steve Lamson, the racing is always great here at Hangtown, like it was in round 1 at Gainesville, as we can see in our Suzuki flashback. It was a hot, humid day in Gainesville where number 12, Damon Huffman, got the hole shot, but right behind, Team Honda, Steve Lamson, gets him ready, starts to set him up for a pass, and before the end of lap 1, Lamson goes to the inside, takes the lead up over the jump. After he got by Huffman, he was gone in moto number 1, Damon.
It was a good day for Lammy. He got off to a decent start there and went by Huffman. He was pretty much gone. Everything was pretty much falling into place for him for this first moto.
You can see as he comes down the straightaway there is Team Honda's Jeff Stanton cheering him on. We also saw Ryan Hughes get in the picture. Of course, Damon Huffman and Ryan Hughes have had some big battles this year, both indoors and outdoors. But later on, it was Robbie Reynard starting to put some pressure on a slightly fading Ryan Hughes. This was the best battle on the racetrack, and he goes to the outside, Damon.
Yeah, he makes a good pass here. Robbie was riding real strong this first moto. I don't know how well Ryan Hughes likes this track, so it's kind of showing there.
Coming up to the finish line, Lamson takes the victory in moto number 1, and it looks like Lamson was going to be the man here at Gainesville. In moto number 2, a great start, great view from the helicopter, and we saw here Craig Decker get the hole shot. Nice start for another Suzuki rider, but look there, in position number 2, we see Lamson with another good start.
Yeah, Lamson's in a good place for this second moto. We also got Craig Decker and Timmy Ferry up front in this moto. We're going to watch Tim Ferry here in third. He's already whipping it. This moto's just getting started. But it looks like right there he got into Lammy a little bit, and front end washed out on him.
Flat on his face went Tim Ferry, but up at the front, another great battle here in the 125 Outdoor Nationals as Steve Lamson on the Honda goes by the Suzuki of Craig Decker, and just like in moto number 1, Lamson was on fire.
It's too bad for Lammy to have this bad moto with that wheel, because I think that guy was really focused this time, and you can see he's just riding flawless, basically.
What Damon is talking about is moments from here, you'll see that Lamson lands really hard on one of these big jumps and then starts to fade back through the pack. It turned out he broke some spokes in the front wheel. But look at Guy Cooper. A great start for him, and he kept this pace up for a while.
Yeah, it looks good. Cooper's riding good there. I'm sure the people's helping him out there a lot. He's got a good crowd down there in Gainesville.
Cooper, known as Coop the Loop, gets a great start here and stays with these front guys. As you can see in the background there, Robbie Reynard, number 22. Now we're starting to see Lamson run into problems with that front wheel. He drops back, and Robbie Reynard now is closing in on the group of Suzukis. And at the head of those Suzukis, of course, was Craig Decker. But watch this one. All of a sudden, wham, face plant into the side of the track. An unsuspecting Craig Decker from the lead straight into the bank, but his problems were not over. Look what happens here. He starts to get the bike going again, and then Brian Deegan comes up, has no place to go, and T-bones him. Things go from bad to worse for Decker. And speaking of bad to worse, Lamson did bring his Honda in. They were able to change the front wheel. He got back on the racetrack, but didn't get many points. The day finished with Robbie Raynard pulling out to a huge lead. He took the overall victory, going 3-1. As we take a look at the final order in our Suzuki flashback, you can see it was Raynard, Huffman, Pichon, Hughes, and Brian Swink. And of course, the points remain exactly the same, as there's only been one round. But it's time now for round 2 from Sacramento, California, known as Hangtown. You can see from the helicopter, it's a beautiful day. 10,000 fans on hand to see some great racing. Damon, let's take a look at this Suzuki track map.
As you can see here, we're running this the opposite direction as we did last year. This is the original way, it's the way I raced it. But this track has a tendency to get a lot of ruts, and it gets really hard packed.
Well, there's also been some changes. Let's check in with Art Ekman.
Hangtown is notorious, whether it be for the mud-producing gully wash rains or the hard-packed, dusty cement-like soil. Stories out of this place are legendary. Now, Dirt Diggers North, the organizers of the race, got together with the state of California, and they shipped in 130 truckloads of sand, hopefully to make it a bit softer.
Thanks, Art. Well, according to some of the riders, Damon, that sand really has helped. What difference does that make?
Yeah, I think it'll help hold some of the moisture in. Like I said, this track usually gets really hard and dusty, so I think they're hoping putting this sand in there is going to hold the moisture in and give the guys a lot better traction all day.
We'll find out how it works soon in Moto number 1. AMA Motocross on ESPN2 is brought to you by Honda, defending champions and holders of the past 7 consecutive Supercross titles. Honda, come ride with us.
This is a 1-800-COLLECT call from...
Hey, this is your son, Jeremy. Your son, Jeremy. Trying to be funny? I've been eating pretty good. Doug and I were just hanging out. Cheese. I'm not an actor. What am I doing? Jeff's doing good. He says to say hi. Hi, Dad. Steve says to say hi. Hi, Mom and Dad. Say what? I think we're going to take it tonight. No, I'd rather have it on your bill than mine. I'm getting ready to go race right now. Mom, guess what? We just won the championship again.
Welcome back to Hangtown. Jan Beekes and Damon Bradshaw in the booth, and Art Ekman's roaming the pits as we now have a chance to look at the Suzuki starting grid. Damon, how do you get into this 40-rider field?
Top 10 guys in points automatically go to the starting line. The other guys have to run a qualifier, which is kind of unfortunate on a day like today when it's hot out. The conditions of the track are going to be, you know, probably hard and fast. It takes effect on the bike and also yourself.
Well, they're obviously going to have to try and save some energy because these riders today will be going a full 70 minutes if you combine Moto number 1 and Moto number 2. We look at the last page now of our Suzuki starting grid as we now have a chance to watch the start of Moto number 1. 30 seconds to go. Now the board turns to the side. We're getting ready for the gate to drop here at Hangtown. Great shot from up atop the crane here. They come up towards turn number 1. Let's see who gets the whole shot. Looks like to the inside. Mike Brown goes to the inside. It looked like of Robbie Raynard. A big pile up in turn 1. We see number 37, Davey Yezik, one of the top guys now having to start from dead last. And yes, it's Honda of Troy rider Mike Brown with the whole shot, Damon.
Yes, it looks like this would be Mike's kind of track. It's really fast, and right now it's not that rough. Got a few ruts in there, but looks like he's off to a good start.
Robbie Raynard, the guy right now who's leading the points, also with a good start. Now, this is a long moto. This is not like Supercross. These guys have been riding Supercross just last week. What kind of changes do they have to make now to get ready for these longer distances?
Well, they definitely have to somewhat pace themselves. I mean, they got 2 motos of this, and these guys are going to be racing wide open for 35 minutes here. And it looks like the top guys are up front. So it's going to be good races. You can see there those ruts are really bad coming down that downhill. And you come off those jumps, you basically got to land in a number of 10 ruts there. So you got to pick one actually before you get there.
Well, you can see the track is certainly rutted, but it is much softer than it's been in years past due to all that sand that Art Ekman told us about. Certainly you can see right there. Look at Mike Brown working through that portion of the track. Now, speaking of riding through that portion of the track, let's check in for this week's Honda riding tip with Ben Cheatwood and Jeff Stanton.
I'm Ben Cheatwood, and join me is 6-time national motocross champion Jeff Stanton with today's Honda riding tip. Jeff, how important is race day nutrition?
Very important, and the reason it's so important, you're practicing, you're sweating, you're draining yourself. You need to replenish your system with water, Gatorade, Powerade, tons of sports drinks, tons of things you can put in water to replenish your system. While you're drinking, you also need to eat something. Best results, bread, carbohydrates, lots of fruits, bananas, apples, oranges. You don't want something with a lot of acid, but most importantly, you need to drink lots of fluids and also eat a little bit to replenish your system so you have enough energy to go out there and race a 20-lap main event.
Race day nutrition is very important. For the Honda Riders Tip, I'm Ben Cheatwood with Jeff Stanton.
Thank you, Ben. We go to the front of the field where Mike Brown right now is starting to get a little bit of pressure from the Kawasaki number 22 of Robbie Reynard, our current points leader. Remember, in round number 1, he finished 3rd in the first moto, then he won the second moto, and he now is our current points leader. Now, Mike Brown, is that a surprise for you, Damon, riding from Honda of Troy?
Actually, not a surprise. Mike's from Tennessee, and the tracks there are similar to this track in as far as the ruts go.
The ruts are big here this weekend, but Mike Brown is putting them to good use. He sits atop our Suzuki Field Summary. Look at Mike Healy there in 4th place. A great run for him so far. We'll be right back. Welcome back to ESPN2's coverage of AMA Motocross here at what's known as Hangtown Raceway. It got its name because in the Gold Rush days, there was a judge that was famous for giving hanging sentences. And speaking of hanging, look behind this guy, Mike Brown. There is Robbie Reynard hanging around looking to make a move for the lead, Damon.
It looks like Robbie's just kind of stalking Mike right here. He's riding a lot smoother, I think, than Mike is, and he's hitting those ruts like he should and using a lot less energy right now.
Looked like coming off that corner, Mike Brown didn't quite have the line. It looks like Robbie Reynard is closing on him, getting ready to make a move. He goes to the outside. He'll try to cut to the inside. Let's see who comes down the hill first. Robbie Reynard takes the lead. Nice move, Damon.
Yeah, he did. He did one of those outside-inside lines. That was always a famous pass of mine. It looked like it worked there.
It was a picture-perfect move for the Works Kawasaki rider. Robbie Reynard has been injured a lot of the times here in both Supercross and outdoor motocross, but he's putting it together now. Art Ekman has caught up with his father in the pit area.
Robert, right before Gainesville, he was just coming off a shoulder injury. Now he's coming off a knee injury, and he's doing fabulous.
He didn't feel good in practice. He was real nervous. I told him just treat it like you did Gainesville. Get a good start and let the race come to you.
He seems to really like this track. It's softened up a bit.
It's softened up and it's real rough. He's just trying to pick lines right now.
Good 3-second lead.
Yeah, it's not enough, though.
Robert Reynard saying that 3 seconds is not enough, Damon. That's not a whole lot of breathing room when you got Mike Brown with this kind of experience.
Yeah, that's right. Robbie just needs to ride smooth now and work his way away from him. But thing is, he's got to somewhat save that energy, but in the same aspect is just keep his speed up.
Now, his dad talked about being nervous. Is that a case of all the riders? You have those nerves before each one of these motos?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I always was a little nervous before racing. Some guys go, no, I'm not, but you still get that tingle in your stomach, and that's just a part of racing.
Now, with these kind of ruts and these kind of track conditions, as we look back through the field, we see a couple of the other guys starting to close in. There's Ryan Hughes, there's Mike Healy. How much is the nervousness, can that affect, let's say, arm pump and so on?
Being nervous can affect the arm pump, but the sooner you get into the race, the better off you are. The more you sit around and build up that nervous energy, and it can affect you. But like I said, if you can get away from it early in the moto, you'll be better off.
Well, we just saw Ryan Hughes on number 9 there on his Kawasaki just about go over the bars. Now he goes to the inside of Mike Healy. Damon, it looked like he came up and just pushed him out of the way.
Yeah, I think that corner had a little bit of water in it there. It was hard to see, but I think he basically just drifted in there to keep Healy from diving back under.
Well, Mike Healy is having a great run on his Velvet Touch Yamaha. He's had a great start, and he's actually staying with these top guys. Mike Brown right now, we thought that he was going to be staying up at the front, but looks like he's drifting back in the clutches now of Tim Ferry. Now, there's a great story. Here's a guy, that's a lapped rider there, but here comes Tim Ferry. Broke his jaw in a press day at Houston. Hasn't been able to train. Man, he's riding strong for not being able to ride.
Yeah, he is. It's going to be definitely a question to see if he can last his 30 minutes plus 2 laps. But, if he's been doing things right and he's riding smooth and not using all that energy, he'll be there at the end.
Mike Brown right now looking as though he maybe picked up some of that momentum. Isn't it sometimes when you catch up to a lap rider, it just kind of zaps your momentum and you kind of fall back in the clutches of another rider?
Well, you try not to do that, but that can happen if you get caught behind the guy and you're actually trying to fight your way around. But the sooner you get around that guy, it makes it more difficult for the guy behind you.
Well, we can see that this is turning into a nice battle. Ferry goes through the picture right now. We saw in the background that Ryan Hughes, who has now cleared Mike Healy, is starting to make his ground on this Suzuki rider. Nice battle here as we're seeing that this is closing up between Mike Brown on the Honda of Troy Honda. Behind him, Tim Ferry on the Works Suzuki.
Maybe Hughes can come up in there and push these guys up there so we can see a four-way race here. That'll be pretty interesting. Usually, if these guys can actually not block each other, they can push themselves on up into Menard.
We talked about Mike Brown. He's 23 years old. He comes from Gray, Tennessee. Whoa, what happened there? Tim Ferry gets in trouble. Now he is definitely in the clutches of Ryan Hughes. Ryan Hughes takes advantage of it and goes through for position.
Yeah, it looks like something happened there. I don't think. Got sideways going up the hill. I thought maybe he banged himself because Ryan went by there pretty easy. But maybe he's just going to lock in behind Ryan. He knows Ryan likes these kind of tracks, and maybe he's going to try to check on some of his lines.
Well, Ryan Hughes now has picked up 2 positions in 2 laps in the very same corner. We look at our leader, and you can see the interval back to Mike Brown. You can see that Robbie Raynard seems to have pulled away, but possibly it looks like that gap might be closing down. We have a good look here at Ryan Hughes, who's done a great job on the 250 this year. Doesn't really like the 125 indoors, but seems to love it outdoors.
Yeah, he's riding really well. I think this track kind of favors his style. It's fast, it's hard, and there are some ruts. I don't know how well he likes the ruts, but it looks like to me here he's pushing up into Renard, and that's what he wants to do, is get up there and make this moto interesting.
Ryan Hughes is one of those riders who always makes the end of these motos interesting, and right now this man is on the gas. Let's take a look at our Suzuki field summary. We can see that Raynard's still leading, and then there's a great battle that we've been watching for second place. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Hangtown. Jan Beekes along with Damon Bradshaw and Art Ekman in the pits, and right there you just saw Mike Brown on the Honda get in trouble coming off that turn, and Ryan Hughes has gone through into second place. Ryan Hughes has had some changes this year as far as mechanics go. It was Chad Watts, now it's Wyatt Seals, and Art Ekman has caught up with him.
Ryan's really given a great performance now, moving into second place, Wyatt. He's really where he wants to be, but does he have time to catch Raynard?
Yeah, I think he does. Just got the word from the top that he was about a second a lap faster now. I'm not sure if that's a consistent second, but hopefully it is. Got off to a decent start, and I don't know, he had me kind of nervous, but he's picking it up now.
Ryan Hughes certainly is picking up the pace here at Hangtown. Now tell me, Damon, he's had a change. It was Chad Watts, as we mentioned. Now we see Wyatt Seals. He has a lot of experience. What does that mean for a rider to change mechanics mid-season?
Well, I think it is a change. You know, he's been used to working with Chad all year, and then all of a sudden Wyatt kind of steps into the picture. But I think he knows Wyatt, and I think those guys have probably spent time together, whether they've been doing it testing or something else. So it's not completely new, but it's just a different mechanic. I think Wyatt has a lot more experience in some of the departments as far as molding, you know, Ryan into being, you know, somebody down the road as far as being a better, I don't know, just all-around rider. But Chad's a good mechanic, so Wyatt's just going to pick up on the other end, I think.
Well, speaking of experience, look at this. We see Damon Huffman right there make a move for 5th place on Mikhail Pichon. Mikhail Pichon, we would have thought, Damon, with his European experience, would be faster than this. He's been really quick in Supercross. Isn't this similar to a European track?
Well, I think it's real similar, but I don't think they quite go the speed there as these guys are going here. These guys are running a real fast pace, and, you know, when you're not used to something like that, it takes a while to adapt to that speed.
Damon Huffman right now in 5th place. Of course, he's won every Supercross on a 125 this year, as we see Davey Yezik, number 37, on the ground for the 2nd time today. Remember, we saw him get piled up, and there you get a great shot of what these ruts are like. They're soft, but yet it is big-time ruts. That can just peel your foot right off the foot peg, can't it? Oh, look at that. That looks like, yes, it's Tim Ferry getting in trouble. That's the first turn. That's right past the start-finish line. You can see he almost went in the mechanics area.
Yeah, it looks like he just come over that hill and hit a kicker, and he did a good job of keeping it on 2 wheels. It looked like he made it over the hay bales without hitting them, but that was probably a pretty good scare because that's a fast section.
Let's take a look at it on a replay. What happened there, Damon?
It looks like just the rear end of the bike kind of washed on him, and then he hit the kicker, and once he did that, he was going so fast he wasn't going to make the corner, but he recovered actually pretty good. At least he didn't land on those people.
Well, you got those people sitting there in lawn chairs. I'm not even sure they knew what was happening, how close they came to getting run over. But look at this, side by side, 2 Suzuki factory riders, and Damon Huffman now takes advantage of Tim Ferry's misfortune and goes up into 4th place.
hopefully these guys will kind of use this as their advantage. If Ferry can keep this thing on 2 wheels and stay in there tight with Huffman, maybe they can drive each other up into these other guys. Since they're on the same team, they won't be cutting each other off and, you know, where one has to protect the other line. So maybe they can go faster.
Well, speaking of going faster, look at Ryan Hughes. He is closed on Robbie Raynard. You can hear the crowd in the background. They're cheering as they come up towards the spectator area. We have a battle for the lead. They're both Kawasaki's. One is a factory Kawasaki. One comes from the pro circuit team. That's Ryan Hughes. He goes to the outside and he takes the lead. Ryan Hughes to the front.
Yeah, he just carried a lot more speed to that corner. That's something you have to do on a 125, use that momentum.
Let's check in with Art Ekman in the mechanics area.
Wyatt, that was real kind of him to make the pass right in front of you. You didn't have time to look at your board.
Yeah, tell me about it. I like it. You're right. That is a good play for it. Made me happy.
He's put on a great charge.
Yeah, he has. Like I said, he got a decent start, and he's done a good job of keeping his composure and just plugging ahead, and it's paid off so far. Now, hopefully, just race the track and keep pulling away.
Ryan Hughes is doing that. He is pulling away. We see Robbie Raynard in second place, but there is a big battle here because, look, Damon Huffman has closed the gap. We have a 3-way battle for second place, Damon.
Yeah, it looks like Huffman has come from quite a ways back, and he's pushing up into these guys. He's probably going to go around these guys and try to work his way up to Hughes.
Now, of course, Ryan Hughes and Damon Huffman are names that we use a lot in Supercross. They go side by side. Huffman on the Suzuki goes to the inside of the Honda, and it looks like he's got the position.
Set him up on the outside here, though. Luckily, he was like those ruts, so it just separates those guys. It looks like Mike went in and his front end washed out.
Is that a case of the washing out of the front end, or is that maybe a case of those ruts catching your foot right off the foot peg?
Yeah, actually, I think that's what happened. He went in there, and sometimes the front forks can hang up on those ruts, and the exact same thing there as you've seen.
Well, look at this. Side by side, Huffman that easily just whips by on the last lap as we see the white flag, Robbie Raynard. Do you think Robbie Raynard is starting to tire? That seemed real easy for Huffman.
Yeah, I think so. You know, maybe he's just going to be satisfied with this instead of slowing himself down. He's going to try to get ready for the second moto, but Huffman is riding really good.
But you know, if you check the stats, Robbie Raynard has never been passed after he's had the hole shot. So today, he's lost 2 positions here. I would have to say that maybe the lack of training, arm pump, something like that. Remember we talked about nervousness earlier? Right now, he's dropping back.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it was just because he's nervous, but, you know, again, it's hot here, and these ruts take a lot of energy to ride, especially if you ride them really stiff. You got to ride these ruts really loose and smooth.
And there's the checkered flag. Ryan Hughes takes the victory. We're looking for number 12 on the Suzuki. That's Damon Huffman, rolls across in second place. Hughes, Huffman, Raynard, and Brown. And we see there that Tim Ferry did come through in 5th place. Art Ekman has caught up with our winner.
Well, this was the first moto on this new track. How did it react? It looked like people were having fun out there.
Yeah, the track's real rough, so it's kind of my liking. You know, I got to stand up a lot and bounces you around, and I think for my strength, and it helps out, you know. So I'm looking forward to the next moto. I'm just going to go out there and ride my own race and, you know, see what I can do.
No major changes then for Moto 2?
Nah, definitely not.
Thanks, Art. Obviously, Ryan Hughes will be hoping there are no changes in Moto number 2. Remember, there's a full 35 minutes to go. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Hangtown. Jan Beekes, Damon Bradshaw, and Art Ekman are here for the start of Moto number 2. You'll see they hold that 30-second board upright. Then when it goes to the side, we know that that gate is going to be dropping any moment. As they come up to the first turn, let's see who this time gets the hole shot. Mike Brown goes way to the outside, but on the inside, Tim Ferry takes the hole shot.
Tim Ferry was set up for that inside line there a little better, even though Brown didn't come out too bad, but actually driving in there first.
But look at that great start for number 61, Mike Healy. Now that's white and it has blue on it, but no, that's not a Yamaha. That's a Honda because of the Velvet Touch sponsorship. Tim Ferry, what a great start for him. And Art Ekman has made his way down to the mechanics area where he's with Lee McCollum.
Lee, obviously you got the bike tuned in and the right suspension.
Yeah, the suspension's working good. The motor's working real good. It looked strong off the start, looking strong now, so he did good in the first moto, so hopefully he can hang in there.
Well, Tim Ferry certainly has got to be thrilled about leading this race right now, Damon. We talked earlier that he broke his jaw on a press day in Houston. Couldn't even open his mouth. He couldn't breathe, meaning that he couldn't train the way he wanted to, but yet he looked strong. That was only like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, he's riding really good. He even done well in the first moto. His result didn't end up that good, but he looked like he was riding strong, so we'll see here in the end.
He said that it was wired shut for a little while, then they unwired it. He can't open it all the way, but he says he feels pretty fit considering maybe sometimes a little bit of a layoff helps a guy recover.
Yeah, it probably made him look forward to getting back racing. You know, sometimes when you lay off like that, gives you a little bit of time, but it actually makes you mean and makes you look forward to racing again.
Well, Tim Ferry is 20 years old from Palm Harbor, Florida. As we look back, and there's Mike Neely we talked about. Third place, Mike Brown. Looks like Deegan there coming through. As we look back through the field, Buddy Antunez, and then way back there was Robbie Raynard. And we also had an opportunity to see Ryan Hughes, of course, who won our first moto. You can see here that when you get back in the field, it makes it tough, doesn't it, Damon?
Yeah, you get back there in the middle of some of those guys. Even though they are slower guys, when you get a pack of them like that, it's harder, you know, for a fast guy to get around them.
Now, what is this going to mean for two of the really fast guys that we saw buried in the pack? We saw 22 Robbie Raynard and also our first moto winner, Ryan Hughes.
Well, if they develop a good drive from back there, they maybe can work their way up to the front. But, you know, then again, they're using a lot of energy to get around those guys. But, two, you know, he can't get out front and just get into a pace and stick there. He's got to keep pushing and keep working his way from these guys.
A couple bikes on the ground. One of those is number 54, Jeff Pastana, from my former hometown of Monterey, California. Both get underway, but obviously right to the back of the pack. But at the front of the pack on our Honda field summary, we can see that the big story is in this second group of 5 with Hughes and Raynard. AMA Motocross on ESPN2 is brought to you by Suzuki. Right now, your Suzuki dealer has the ride you've been waiting for and the financing to get it. Welcome back to Hangtown Raceway, just outside Sacramento, California, where we see number 9 on the Kawasaki. That's Rhino. Ryan Hughes moving into 5th place past Brian Deegan. Now, of course, Ryan Hughes won our first moto. This is a combination of points between moto number 1 and moto number 2. Now, he's got a long way to catch up, Damon. What's he got to do to keep that momentum going?
Yeah, well, again, like I said, if he's got a good drive, which it looks like he does, he moves through those guys without any trouble. I mean, he can keep that drive and move right up into those guys. Like I said, the guys out front can kind of get kind of sluggish and get into a groove and stick there until Rhino catches up to him.
Now, he got his nickname Rhino because he trains really hard. He's very muscular. He trains all the time with Jeremy McGrath, rides at Jeremy's home track. But those guys tend to ride a lot of Supercross-type tracks. So, since we're right in the middle of the Supercross season, these guys necessarily don't have as much riding on these kind of tracks as they'd like.
Well, I think they probably changed up a little bit on their training schedule. They probably did start riding some outdoor stuff because they know the Supercross season's almost over. There's a lot of outdoors coming up. So I would say they've been putting some time in on some tracks out in California.
Now, when you look at Ryan, you can see that he trains. He's very strong looking. But then you look at a guy like Damon Huffman, who's very thin, but yet they seem to be about the same speed. Does it take actual physical strength or just like endurance?
Well, you don't have to be this big old burly dude to ride a motorcycle. You know, sometimes if you're carrying excess baggage that you don't need, you know, there's no reason to have that. But as long as Huffman's strong in his upper body and can last that 35 minutes, that's all you need. You know, you're not carrying around the extra weight. But as you can see, Rhino is built a little different than Huffman is, and you know, he looks like a strong guy.
He's definitely a strong guy, and I tell you, this guy is definitely not carrying around any extra baggage. And right now, he needs to close in, because if he stays in 4th place, it's not going to be enough for him for the overall victory. Ryan Hughes on the Pro Circuit Kawasaki. Not a factory ride, but it's just about as close as you can get, Damon.
Yeah, I think so. His bike is just as good as Renard's back there, I think. And, you know, it's really good for Ryan to be able to go in there and beat a factory guy. Ryan's riding for Pro Circuit. Not that it's any less of help or you know, effort that those guys put in. But, you know, Ryan is riding on a team that's not with factory Kawasaki.
Well, speaking of factory Kawasaki, here's Robbie Raynard right now running in 7th place. Now, of course, we saw him fade a little bit in the first moto, ended up in 3rd place. He was disgusted, wouldn't even talk with us afterwards. We found out, though, in the break that it was arm pump that slowed him down. Now, can you shake off arm pump? You think he'll be okay this moto?
Yeah, well, hopefully he's a little bit looser than he was first moto. Usually that's what it comes from. I mean, it comes from being tight, holding on too tight, or either not riding enough during the week. So it's a number of things. Hopefully he shook that this moto and he won't have to worry about it.
Now, when you talk about shaking it out, you talk about nervousness. Is it more nerve-wracking now to be trying to work through the field, or when you're out there in the lead like he was earlier?
Well, it just depends, you know, on the frame of mind he's in. Some guys, like I said, can get out front and just get into pace and stick there, and that's actually bad because these other guys can come up behind you with a drive like Robbie's trying to do here, coming from behind. But hopefully he's relaxed a little bit, he's not holding on as tight, and hopefully he'll ride a little more fluid this time.
Now, Brian Deegan certainly is not making it easy for him. He's having a great ride on his Honda.
Yeah, he sure is. You know, I haven't actually seen him ride. Oh, that's not good.
Big crash for Robbie Raynard. Came down the hill, looked like he got cross-rutted, and then went right over the bars. But thankfully, you can see how soft the sand has made this track. He actually landed right in a muddy area. We'll have to see here if Robbie Raynard on the Kawasaki can get going again.
we're going to get a replay here of it. As you can see, he's coming down through there and no troubles. But he just got hung up there and cross-rutted, and when he did, he put the weight on the front of the bike, and there wasn't nothing to do. He was going so fast not to recover that. But maybe he got hung up a little bit coming off the bike. I don't know. Maybe he landed and looked like he landed on his shoulder a little bit.
Now, that's something that obviously he'd be very concerned about. Robbie Raynard has had shoulder injuries on both sides. We'll have to see if he's riding at full speed or if possibly he got hurt. Now, Damon, he is wearing a chest protector. They do have protection of the shoulders, but in that kind of fall, sometimes it doesn't help you.
Yeah, actually, the chest protector, you know, some people say they do help you to keep from breaking things, but as far as I'm concerned, they basically keep rocks and foot pegs and that kind of things from getting into your back.
Now we're seeing a great battle between Mike Healy and Ryan Hughes. Mike Healy on a Honda, even though it kind of looks like a Yamaha. That's because we mentioned earlier that's some Velvet Touch sponsorship. Look at this, side by side, a privateer versus a semi-factory guy. Oh, nice battle here. Mike Healy actually pushes him to the outside. He has a lot of experience in Europe, but right now, Ryan Hughes, with youth and with more experience here outdoors in the U.S., takes that position. Almost made it look easy.
Yeah, as you can see, Rhino's charging really hard. He's charging into all the corners, charging off the jumps, and he's keeping a lot of forward momentum, which is good. And, you know, I think you can probably see these guys up in front of him, and if not, Wyatt is definitely letting him know on the chalkboard what's going on.
I find it very interesting that Mike Healy considers himself an old man at 26, and this guy at 22, Ryan Hughes, certainly at the peak of his career. Let's take a look at the Honda current standings. Ferry, Brown, Huffman, Hughes, and Healy. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Hangtown. Jan Beekes, Damon Bradshaw, and Art Ekman in the pits. We're now seeing a battle between Mike Brown, number 26 on the Honda of Troy Honda, and right behind him, number 12 on the factory Suzuki, Damon Huffman. This has turned into a great battle, Damon.
Yeah, it looks like Huffman's coming up through here to take that same outside line. Well, he went to the outside instead of the inside. We've seen the other guy try that inside line, but it worked for Huffman.
Ryan Hughes earlier went to the inside, but this time on the outside, it was Damon Huffman. Nice move past Mike Brown. That should put him up now. Oh, maybe not. Look, he's in trouble. Mike Brown goes right back past. Now, that is what can happen if you get your foot caught in that rut.
Yeah, he was trying to keep it up. He walked it through there pretty far, but once he hit that hard dirt, it was all over with. Front end just washed out.
Let's take another look at that one, Damon.
Here we go. You can see he just had the bike turned too sharp in the front end, was just cutting on the inside of that rut, and once he couldn't get that leg back out there, front end just washed on him.
And of course, Mike Brown took advantage of that. We'll have to see if Damon Huffman can close that gap again. It's very important for Damon Huffman to come up and try and take that position. Remember, here in outdoor AMA motocross, it is the combination of Moto number 1 and Moto number 2 that gives you the overall. And Damon Huffman right now, after finishing second in Moto number 1, needs valuable points. This man right here, number 23, Tim Ferry, on the other hand, he's gone.
Yeah, he's riding really good. It seemed like this moto he's riding real smooth. He's got his confidence up, and he's riding really loose, it looks like. Like I said earlier, you got to ride these ruts really loose, keep your feet up out of the, you know, the ruts of tweaking your ankles and stuff, and that's what he's doing.
Well, he's 20 years old. He's from Florida, and they call him Red Dog. We're seeing him now work his way back up to the part of the track where not too many spectators can get to, but then he'll come back down into this section where there's a huge area where all the spectators congregate and they cheer on their favorite rider. And right now, these guys are cheering on for Tim Ferry. A lot of people know this guy's been injured. It's his first time back. And what a great way, Damon, for him to come back after getting hurt so bad.
Yeah, it's always a good feeling to be able to come back. And, you know, like I said, he was in the race in the first moto, in the second moto. If he can keep it wheels up and win this moto, it'll be just a big confidence booster for him.
Now, of course, when you break your jaw, that's not one of those bones you use when you're riding. I mean, you used to use your jaw a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah, actually, everybody would like to use it now and again, but some people keep it inside and some let it go.
Ryan Hughes right now obviously trying to close in as best he can. He was our winner in Moto number 1. He needs to get up there. He's in 4th place currently. Needs to pass a few more people if he wants to make the overall victory. Right now, it's very tight between Ryan Hughes and Damon Huffman. We'll have to see how this baby shakes out. Now, speaking of Damon Huffman, we've seen him trying to close ground as we see him here next to Mike Brown, and Art Ekman has caught up with his mechanic, Tony Berluti.
Tony, even after going down, he's riding a marvelous race, getting back right on the tail of Brown.
Yeah, he needs to get by Brown for the overall, and Hughes is coming on, so it should be a good race. Hopefully, right now it looks like Brown's slowing him down. He needs to get by him now so he can pull us a little bit on Rhino.
Damon Huffman is closing the gap on Mike Brown. We know that he's passed him once. We'll have to see if we can pass him again. His mechanic thinks that Mike Brown is slowing him down. Let's see what happens at the top of the hill, Damon.
Yeah, he's definitely got some better lines than him. It didn't take him long to catch back up to him. I think Mike's getting a little bit tired. He's starting to ride a little bit sloppy, so I think Huffman will make the pass here pretty quick.
We'll watch it carefully to see where Huffman decides to try and go by Brown. Keep in mind, Brown right now is having to hold up the Honda banner because the factory bike of Steve Lamson is not here. It's Honda versus Suzuki on the inside. He comes to the inside. Man, he made that look easy.
Yeah, he did. He was just using that momentum and had the better line on the inside. Looks like Brown almost basically drifted out of the outside to give it to him. But Huffman went on by, and we'll see what's next.
Now, that is just a case of one guy being fresher than another, or is it just the lines they're choosing?
Actually, I think the Huffman is definitely a little bit stronger at this point in the race. Brown, I don't think, earlier I said he was riding sloppy, but I think he's just riding a little bit slower than the other guy.
Well, let's keep in mind, this guy, Damon Huffman, has won every Supercross race this year. There's no question that he's very comfortable on this machine. He's in great shape, hasn't been injured, and of course, Mike Brown, you have to give him credit, is doing a great job for Honda of Troy.
Yeah, I think he's riding really good. I was really surprised to see him up there in both motos and riding as well as he is.
Damon Huffman, we have a chance to look at his style. We talked about how much different physically he is than his arch rival, Ryan Hughes. He's very thin, he's tall, but look how he just makes it look easy.
Yeah, he's really smooth. He's a little bit taller. Like I said, he's built a little bit different. He's a little bit taller and lankier, which is, you know, good in some cases. And he uses it to advantage. He rides really lanky, really smooth, and really loose.
Really smooth and really loose he is, but up front, of course, it's Tim Ferry. As we look at the Honda field summary, Huffman there in second place. Looking at the second five, we'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Hangtown, ESPN2's coverage of AMA Motocross, and we get to see now number 9, Ryan Hughes. It's his turn to try and move past Mike Brown.
Yeah, seeing how Huffman went around Brown, I don't think it's going to be a big problem for Hughes either. Like I said, I think Mike is definitely starting to slow down, and Hughes has got a drive going, so I think he'll go by pretty quick. Yep, as we just said, there he goes.
Well, you called that one right on the money. Ryan Hughes on the downhill picks a better line, moves himself through into third place. Now, what this means is that if Damon Huffman stays in second and this man, Ryan Hughes, stays in third, he will take the overall victory. So, therefore, they have to try and close in on that man. That was 23, Tim Ferry, our leader. Here comes number 12. That's Damon Huffman in second place. And there's Ryan Hughes. Great shot of the interval. And then Mike Brown on the Honda, number 26. Let's check in the mechanics area again with Art Ekman.
Such an important move into third place behind Damon Huffman because it equalizes the points in that great rivalry.
Yeah, it does. Damon's got a good pace, and I don't know, he seems to be pulling on Ryan a little bit in the back, but Ryan was really pushing hard, maybe a little bit too hard at times, so hopefully now he'll smooth out and just close it up. If he can close it up, maybe it'll make him hungry enough.
Well, speaking of hungry, this guy right there, Ryan Hughes, is hungry for the overall victory. And really, it's out of his hands right now, because if he finishes where he is right now, he's in third place. As long as Huffman doesn't change position, he will have the overall victory. But remember, they're both Suzukis up front. We've got Tim Ferry, and we also have Damon Huffman. Do you think there's a chance that Suzuki might have this guy, number 23, Tim Ferry, let Huffman go by so he could get the overall?
I don't know. It's still early in the season, and it's not going to depend on if he passes him, if he wins the championship or not. I don't know what they'll be thinking on terms of that, but basically what Rhino's got to do is still continue to ride in the same race that he's riding and try to pass those guys, and then he doesn't have to worry about what happens.
Well, we will have to say that number 12 right there, Damon Huffman, the overall victory is either in his grasps or it's not. In other words, if he passes Ferry, he'll go home the overall victor. But right now, we have to say that Ferry's doing a great job holding them off.
Yeah, actually he is. Like I said earlier, Ferry is still riding really smooth, and Huffman's riding strong, and Hughes is coming up. I mean, he's still just as strong as he was midway through the moto. So, we're going to have to wait and see what happens. I think Hughes is going to come up and make this a three-way battle.
Well, let's keep in mind that Ryan Hughes at the moment is a long way back from these two Suzuki riders. It's very interesting to me that Tim Ferry, being injured, really not being in the kind of shape that you would think, getting ready for one of the most grueling type of races that you have here, an outdoor motocross, is doing so well against a guy that's won everything this year.
Well, I would say, you know, him not being able to be in maybe the best shape that he can be in, mentally he's probably really prepared. And, you know, like with me, I mean, mental preparation can go a long ways. It can overcome that may be lack of being able to train the week before or the several weeks before. But it looks like whatever he's done is he's done the right thing.
Well, he certainly has got himself in a great rhythm right now. Talking to Damon Huffman before the start of this race, his biggest concern was the ruts here, and he was afraid what might happen if his foot got peeled off the foot peg in one of those deep ruts. Of course, we saw him earlier. That exact thing happened.
Yeah, he was in a pretty slow corner, so I don't think anything really happened. But his concern is going down a long straightaway. When you get into the deep ruts, sometimes when the bike gets loaded down, your feet actually do get real close to the ruts. And that's something that happens a lot when you're racing ruts. Very few guys can ride the ruts real good.
We should also talk about the fact that not only these two riders are doing as well as they are, but these Suzuki 125s obviously seem to work really well outdoors. They've struggled this year with the 250, but boy, this 125, they seem to have dialed.
Suzuki's definitely done their homework on this 125. It seems like for the last couple of years they've had a real good 125, and it's been real competitive. And these guys are showing you here how competitive it is. They're leading the second moto.
Now tell me about the forks. Suzuki is the team, especially here in the outdoors. They like to go back to the conventional forks. Everybody else is running the upside down forks. They say it's more rider friendly, but you don't think so.
Well, I think it's just a matter of preference. You know, one guy can use what he wants, and you know, I like the upside down forks because the conventional forks always seem to be a little better on landings and stuff, but pretty much everywhere else I like the forks a lot better. And like here today in the ruts, the conventional forks have an overhang sometimes right past the front axle, and that hangs up in the ruts, and that's always a pain.
So the big advantage is the big hits, and a lot of people would think that if you're flying high in the air that you'd land harder on a supercross track than you would outdoors, but actually that's not the case. These two Suzukis are atop our Honda field summary, and then it's Hughes, Brown, Antunez, and in the second five, we have Pichon, Deegan, Decker, Brandes, and Pedersen. We'll be right back. AMA Motocross on ESPN2 has been brought to you by Honda, defending champions and holders of the past 7 consecutive Supercross titles. Honda, come ride with us. Back at Hangtown, just outside Sacramento, California. This is the battle at the moment. It's the battle for the lead. Number 23 is Tim Ferry from Florida. Behind him is Damon Huffman, number 12. As you can see the white flag, it's the final lap. It all comes down to this, Damon.
Yeah, I don't think Hughes is going to come up there. We could see right there where he's actually dropped back a little bit, or either it just hasn't made up the ground that we thought he was going to. But Ferry's still riding strong. Maybe he's going to hold on for the win.
Well, we should mention that if Ferry goes through to win, that in second place, the other Suzuki of Damon Huffman would not take the overall victory. Because of the way the points work here, third place, Ryan Hughes would come home with the overall victory here at Hangtown. But it's not over yet. These guys are still close enough to make it interesting.
Yeah, I think Huffman is definitely wanting to get around here, and I don't really think that he's thinking, hey, these guys are going to tell him to pull over and let me go by. Like I said, it's still early in the season, and this is not going to be the determining factor whether Huffman or Ferry or Hughes wins this championship.
Of course, we see, wow, going to the outside. Huffman's going for it. He cuts to the inside. They are right next to each other. This thing is definitely not over.
I think Ferry wants to win just as bad as Huffman does. Even though Ferry can't get the overall, like I said, it would be a big confidence builder for him.
Look at that wheelie. He pulls a wheelie and then chops in front there of Damon Huffman. Great ride for Tim Ferry, a guy who's missed some racing, but boy, he is coming back here with a vengeance.
Yeah, again, he's still, right now, I think he's just thinking, hey, keep this thing on 2 wheels, keep the same line, ride strong, and let's get the checkered flag first.
He is definitely twisting that throttle, but this could make a big difference. He's got a lapped rider in front of him. Thankfully, the lapped rider moves so out of the way. Both guys go past. We're going to have some great racing coming up. Oh, man, the bike all over the place for Ferry. This is some great racing here on the final lap.
He's riding just as good as he was on the first lap or better. I think it made him a little mad when the guy got kind of close to him there.
You can see the bike going from side to side. That's Pingree there, number 41, trying to get out of the way, seeing, man, these guys are on the gas. They just blow by him, put him a lap down, and they're coming now around to the last couple of turns, and it looks like Ferry is going to pull it off.
Yeah, Ferry's got a little bit of breathing room there. I don't know if Huffman just backed out of it or if he's starting to get tired or what. I don't know. He backed out of it.
They come past the spectator area. There's just a little ways to go, and Tim Ferry stands, knows he's got it, the checkered flag. Tim Ferry with his first victory on the outdoors on the factory Suzuki. All the Suzuki guys just thrilled with the performance there, but of course, Ryan Hughes is coming home with the overall. The results of Moto number 2 brought to us by Honda. Of course, Ferry and Huffman on the Suzukis, Ryan Hughes on a Kawasaki, Brown and Antonez on Hondas, and then rounding out the top 10, Pichon, Deegan, Craig Decker, Michael Brandes, and Chad Pedersen. Art Ekman is caught up with Damon Huffman.
In the midst of your disappointment, I know it's hard to think of it right now, but it was such a great battle.
It was, but, you know, even though I fell once, I rode really good, but still, you know, I'm not too satisfied. I should have passed him. I had, what, 3 or 4 laps. But, you know, we could have played team tactics and haven't pulled over, but we didn't. We're playing smart, and I guess, you know, it's nothing I could do. I should have passed him. That's it.
Huffman may be disappointed there, but he won't be when he sees he's leading the points, followed by Hughes, Bichon, Reynard, and of course back through. Let's check in now with Tim Ferry.
Absolute awesome race, Tim Ferry. You held him off when he wanted it bad as you could want a race, and you held him off.
Yeah, you know, I've been out for 6 weeks. I lost the East Coast Championship, and I want to come out here and prove myself on the outdoors, put my Suzuki up front, and that moto, I got the hole shot. I'm not used to getting hole shots, and everything worked out for me.
Well, it's interesting when you have a teammate battle as well, because you're not going to put anybody down.
No, you know, I've seen Hughes coming up behind him, and I was waiting for them to tell him to move over and let him go by, but you know, I was going to go to the finish until I got that signal.
It's good that you didn't get the signal, your first national victory.
Yeah, it is. After being out for 6 weeks, only riding 2, I'm pretty happy.
Tim Ferry very happy with that. It brings him home 3rd in the overall results. But of course, Ryan Hughes is the man today who comes home in the #1 spot.
Well, how sweet it is, an overall victory, and you had to fight for that.
Yeah, I got a bad start and had to come back from like 15th, and you know, I rode as hard as I could. The track's pretty rough, and you know, that's all I had today. You know, I tried as hard as I could, and those guys had a pretty big lead at the beginning, so it's hard to push on this track without making any mistakes, and I was trying to do that, and I made a lot of mistakes, so I tried settling down, and me and Damon just kept going. You know, he'd pull, I'd pull, he'd pull, I'd pull, so you know, I just settled down and hoped that Ferry would win, and he got the overall.
Well, it looks like the beginnings of a national series. Great rivalry again with Damon Huffman.
Yeah, definitely. Damon's a good rider, and you know, it's going to be a tough fight this whole series. You know, I'm not going to give up, and I don't think he is. So we're just going to give it the best we can, and hopefully I'll come out on top at the end of the year.
Well, great ride today.
Thanks a lot.
This has been some good racing all day, Moto 1 and also Moto 2.
Well, we expect to see even more great racing at our next round at Mount Morris.